In this video, we'll go over the key metrics for success for each of the NFL positions, and we build a Week 3 GPP lineup on DraftKings, all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee from the Fantasy Football Consultants. Now, a quick reminder to check the description of this video, and I'll also include a link above to access the playlist of videos where we did a deep dive in the 4 to 5 most important metrics for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. This video is dedicated to those who are utilizing the DFS Hub platform, which has over hundreds of data columns. We're going to go through by position which data columns we think are most important, and then we're going to prepare a Week 3 GPP lineup. Let's get to it. All right, everybody, we are looking at the NFL Lineup Builder tool on DFS Hub. I love this tool, and I love how customizable it is. First of all, on the upper right, you can click on columns, and you get over 100 different columns of data, and you can plug them in here. And once they're here, you can sort them. You can manipulate the data. For example, I could say, only show me the running backs that have salary less than $7,000. And I can go over to the spread column, show me only favorites. So I would say less than 0. And then I can sort by team total if those are the things I want to analyze to figure out what running backs that I want to start for the week. Now, you might have just said, Eric, did you just say over 100 columns of data? How am I going to go through all that? But that's what this video is all about. I am going to tell you what FFC's favorite columns are to use for data on DFS Hub's Lineup Builder tool. Okay, there's some columns or data points that we like regardless of the position. So if you're looking at the PowerPoint slide, over on the left is the exact letters that DFS Hub calls the particular column, and to the right is FFC's description of that particular column. So let's go over it. First one is depth. I think this is pretty much mandatory to have in all positions. It lists the depth chart ranking of that particular player. Here's the issue. If you have quarterbacks, for example, and you decide that you want to sort by implied team total, then if Kansas City has the highest implied team total, you not only will get Pat Mahomes, but you'll get his backups like Chad Henne there. I don't want Chad Henne in my analysis. No offense, Chad. So what I will do is just set the depth column to 1. So only show me the starting quarterbacks. The next column of data is DC, which is really the depth change. As you go on to the week, as you get closer and closer to the main slate on Sunday, this becomes really important column. To the extent that somebody gets promoted, then it'll show a green arrow up. And if someone got demoted, dropped in the depth chart, then you have a red arrow down. I love salary. You always want to know how much a particular player costs. So this is pretty much mandatory in all positions. And it tells you the salary of whatever site you are reviewing. So if you're looking at FanDuel, it'll give you the salary for FanDuel. If you're looking at DraftKings, it'll give you the salary for DraftKings. I also like opponent because I never want to forget who the particular player is playing against. But the bonus of this column is it'll also tell you the venue, because it will denote if they're playing Dallas. If they're playing Dallas at home, it would just say Dallas. If they're playing at Dallas, it'll say at Dallas. Projected status is another key column, especially as you approach Sunday. It lists the player's health status, whether they are healthy, questionable, or completely out. Now, this is not something you just want to look for your own players. What I like to do is sort projected status to see all the players that are out or that are questionable and look like they will not play, because that opens up opportunities either for that player's backup or other players on the same team. The next column is DK/FD. This is something Fantasy Football Consultants asked DFS Hub to add, and they were so kind to do so. What we really like about this particular data point is it can reveal particular bargains on either DraftKings or FanDuel by looking at the algorithm of the other site. The next column is points divided by salary. So what DFS Hub is contracted with Sports Data IO, which provides basically a projection of fantasy points for that player in this upcoming game. And then they divide that by their salary. So this is a value metrics. Do I think you should take this column and just go with this purely? Of course not. But I like using this column as a checkpoint when I'm doing all my other analysis. How is this player looking from a value perspective based on the projected points? And then finally, projected ownership. That's really critical. It comes out on Friday for the main slate on Sunday. I say it's critical if you're playing GPP because you want to make sure that your lineup isn't too chalky, and knowing projected ownership really does help. All right, let's get to the specific positions. Let's start quarterback. What are the columns and data metrics that I am interested in when I'm specifically looking at picking an NFL DFS quarterback? Well, right off the top is the over-under line. I want to make the point that DFS Hub makes sure that this is current. So I think every 15 or 30 minutes, it gets updated. This is so important as you get farther into the season when weather starts to become a consideration, because if weather is really bad, it'll be reflected in the over-under line as it starts to drop. Likewise, for quarterbacks, I want to look at the implied total, which is a metric that is derived from the over-under line and the spread. Now, I usually want an implied total of at least 23 for quarterbacks. The other factors that I want to look at is this PFF completion percentage, which is basically the percent of completed passes year to date. That's really helpful in assessing the accuracy of the quarterback. But even better is the PFF grades pass. What that is, Pro Football Focus provides a passing grade for every quarterback based on their accuracy. So you might say, well, how is that different from completion percentage? It's different because it analyzes every throw. Let's suppose a quarterback throws a pass and it's really off target, but the wide receiver makes a spectacular play. Pro Football Focus actually downgrades that particular pass in their grading. And on the flip side, if a quarterback makes a perfect pass, hits the receiver in stride right on the numbers, and they drop it, that obviously can't be reflected in just completion percentage, but that quarterback will get a push up in their grade for that on-target pass. All right, another column is passing TD percentage in their last 4 games. So what they do is take the median pass TD percentage. What is the TD percentage? Taking the pass TDs divided by total pass attempts. And then finally, 2 PFF grades that helps with the environment that the quarterback's going to affect, that is going to have to deal with in the upcoming game. First of all, a grade for the opposing defense coverage unit and a grade for the opposing defense's pass rush. Let's move on to running back. With running backs, it's all about opportunities. So we look at the OPS L4, which is a median opportunities in the last 4 games for that running back. And again, when we say opportunities, we are talking about carries plus targets. Obviously, the more opportunities, the better. Also going to look at implied total. I also want to look at the current point spread. It's very important for running backs, more than any other position, from a game spread perspective, that I project them to be in the lead. Teams obviously run the ball a lot more than they pass the ball when they are ahead. So I'm looking for a favorite, and if I'm lucky, someone who's a 6 or 7 point favorite or even more. The next column is op position rank. This is the opponent ranking in giving up fantasy points specifically to that position. And obviously you want the ranking to be high in the sense that that defense is one of the 32, 31, or 30 versus 1 or 2, which is the strongest defense that you're going up against. Then we have yards after contact. That's really important to understand kind of the elusiveness of your running back. Median snaps in the last 3 games. Snap percentage can give you a picture of what's going on with your running back. Sometimes when a running back struggles, it's because they simply haven't been in the game, and that will occur in snap percentage. That often happens when you have a running back who may not get involved in the passing game, and they get game scripted out because they fell way behind. So the next metric is cost over opportunity. It's all about opportunities in running backs, but this is going to tell you what the price tag is for each opportunity. Obviously, the lower the price and the more opportunities, that starts to tell you that this running back may provide a lot of value. And then finally, we always want to know about, can they get a touchdown? That's big for running back. That's 6 points. And we're going to look at opportunities inside the 5. Why? About 2/3 of all rushing touchdowns in the NFL start with carries that begin inside the 5. So it's a great metrics to look at. Let's go to wide receivers. At wide receivers, it's also about opportunities. So we use that OPSL4 again, but it's also about looking at air yards. How long does the ball carry in the air from the quarterback's arm to the receiver catching it? So their average depth of target, or otherwise known as air yards or ADOT. Also want to know the current over-under line. As opposed to running backs, wide receivers, I'm interested in opportunities inside the 10 to tell me whether they're likely to get a touchdown. I already talked about the cost over opportunities. That can happen for wide receivers as well. And then Pro Football Focus has a couple of good grades that we like to take a look at in evaluating wide receivers. An overall grade of the wide receivers' ability, and then also a grade of whatever opposing team they're about to play, their defense's coverage unit. And finally, tight ends as the last player position that we need to cover. Pretty much these are all metrics that we've already discussed in others, so I won't repeat it. But just finally say Pro Football Focus does provide a specific grade for tight ends' overall receiving ability. That's important because we really don't care how well the tight end blocks. We want to know how well they are as a receiver. All right, defense. This is usually an afterthought for many of us, but it really shouldn't be. Even if you're going to pay down in defense, so you're going to pick one of the 4 or 5 cheapest defense, it's important that you evaluate which is the best defense among those 4 or 5. So you can look at sacks as a total or sack percentage, which is the percent of time that defense sacked the QB over the number of total dropbacks in that particular game. Venue is important. Why? Because if a defense is playing at home, sometimes the home crowd could be loud and noisy, can affect the offense. We also want to look at the current point spread for defense, because you always want your defense to be favored, because that's going to make it more likely that they will, in fact, be ahead in the game. It is always defense gold when we have the offense throwing the ball, when the defense knows that they're going to throw the ball, because all sacks, all interceptions, and majority of fumbles occur in the passing game. Also want to look at OPPPTS. That is the opposing team's implied total. This is the only position I care about that. So I always want to make sure I look at that. That is going to tell us whether Las Vegas thinks that other offense will have much success in scoring points against our defense. And then finally, a bunch of Pro Football Focus grades for the defense's pass rush. That's our defense that we're selecting. What's the grade for their ability to put pressure on the quarterback? And a grade for whatever that defense's opponent is, how that offense pass blocks, and their overall ability. I know this is a lot of information, but I just want to make sure you know you can go ahead, click on columns. They do have a little question mark icon, which will list all the descriptions of all these different columns. And furthermore, when you click on columns, you can just type in a couple of the letters of any of these codes. For example, if you want projected status, if you just type in PRJ, that will immediately come up and you can add that particular column. You might be wondering what DFS hubs cost. Well, they have a completely free basic plan. And I mean, it's a no-brainer to at least sign up for that since it is free, but also to the extent that you would like the pro account, which has all the information that I've covered in this video. You can spend $12 a week and pay as you go. But the first week, if you use the coupon code $1, you can have a sneak peek at it for the first week for only $1, or you can do a season pass for $198. If you can do us a favor, if you are interested in DFS Hub and you want to support the Fantasy Football Consultants channel, please use our affiliate link. We'll put it in the description, but it is dfshub.com/AFF = 687. We truly appreciate you using the affiliate code and supporting our channel. All right, let's talk GPP for week 3. So when we're doing GPP, we want to always start with a stack. And you can see that I put this lineup up in DFS Hub in the lineup area. And I have a couple of key statistics that are up there, which I think that was going to help me explain why I came up with this lineup. So I wanted to attack one of the highest scoring games. I chose not to attack Buffalo and Miami because I think everybody's going to go to that game after Tua just threw for 5 TDs and Hill and Waddle went off. So I'm going to go with the other game, which is really high scoring at 53.5 points, Detroit and Minnesota. So I'm going to pick Jared Goff, who's relatively inexpensive at $5,800, and go to the guy who's been red hot over the last 8 games. He has set tied an NFL record for 8 receptions or more in 8 straight games. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And glad to get him in the lineup. I think he has a tremendous ceiling, but nobody has a better ceiling. Well, very few people whose wide receiver is not named Cup has a better ceiling than Justin Jefferson. We're paying up for him $9,300, but we're running him back. So the story that we're telling in this high-scoring game is if Jared Goff goes off, we think St. Brown's going to be a big part of that. And Minnesota is likely going to have to keep up, or they already, took a lead. So I'm thinking Justin Jefferson hopefully will have a very good game. So I'm going to have another stack and another high-scoring game, and I'm going to attack the Arizona-LA Ram game. Arizona has had a ton of issues with their receiving core. DeAndre Hopkins is suspended. It looks like Rondale Moore, who's been injured, will miss another game. That's going to make Zach Ertz that much more valuable. And he's really cheap at $4,600. And then I'll run it back the other way with Allen Robinson. Now, he's no Cooper Kupp, but he's also only $5,700, and he's starting to get into the offense. I think the second wide receiver on the Rams always has a lot of opportunity because of the attention that defenses will give Cooper Kupp. And the Rams were throwing Allen Robinson's way around the end zone. So put me down for Allen Robinson at $5,700. The other stack that this lineup has is I'm going all in on the Las Vegas Raiders. They are favored. They're 2.5-point favorites over Tennessee, which, man, how much do they miss A.J. Brown? That offense just seems in disarray. And if you can get up on Tennessee, good things happen because I just think that they don't have a very good passing game without A.J. Brown. So if Las Vegas can take control of this game, I expect Josh Jacobs, who really is the bell cow on Las Vegas, he gets a great percentage of the carries and even and all the goal line work, that he should be really busy, and the Raiders defense should do very well under that game script. All right. The only guys that I did not talk about was Miles Sanders. And Miles Sanders at $5,500 is just in a tremendous matchup against Washington. They're favored 6.5 points. We love that. Washington has been awful against the run so far this year. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, what about Hurts? Isn't he going to take a lot of the carries away? You know, Miles Sanders had 20 touches last week. So he's fine. And I love his price, and I love that we're able to get him in. And this was our week 3 GPP lineup. Just an advisory, we have several other videos that we did this week. When they're available, we'll put that on the screen, as well as the playlist for our metric shows. Until next time, take care, everybody.